competitive nature,
Competitiveness.
All right, so you and Diddy, you and Puff cool?
No, I don't really rock with him
Okay,
like that.
damn. All right, I didn't know what that meant.
Okay.
All right.
JayZ's assault accuser just admitted on tape he never touched her. But instead of walking away, he's suing her for $20 million, while his lawyers allegedly strong-arm her into silence. Music. Everyone assumed this was over when the case collapsed until a leaked recording revealed the woman telling investigators he was just there. He didn't do anything, while her own lawyer now stands accused of pushing her to lie. Yet, JayZ's team isn't backing down. They're escalating. Right now, sources confirm his legal threats have shifted from the courtroom to a shadow war, targeting not just the accuser, but the man turning her recanted words into a viral weapon. 50 Cent, who just posted an AI-generated video of JayZ in handcuffs with a caption, "I want to post this, but I'm afraid I'm going to get shot," before deleting it. Too late. It's everywhere. Music. The lawsuit demands $20 million in damages. The Super Bowl deal hangs by a thread. Beyonce's team is scrubbing mentions from press releases. And a second accuser's lawyer, Tony Busby, the same man representing Diddy's victims, just called the whole thing a blatant lie, while JayZ's attorney fires back that the tape speaks for itself. So, why is a billionaire who claims he's innocent spending more energy silencing critics than clearing his name? Because the recording isn't the real problem, it's what comes next. 50 Cent isn't just trolling. He's compiling footage for a documentary his team claims will drop before Diddy's trial. And JayZ's lawyers are reportedly offering 8-figure settlements to shut it down. That's not the move of a man who thinks he's winning.
Don't trust nobody. In Hollywood, specifically, when you get there, a lot of people don't know how to say no. That's the difference between New York City and California.
The moment the recording of Jane Doe admitting JayZ never touched her surfaced, his team should have let it fade. Instead, Music, they filed a $20 million defamation lawsuit against her and her attorney, Tony Busby. The same lawyer now representing multiple women in Diddy's ongoing legal battles. That's not the move of someone confident in their innocence. It's the move of a man who knows the next accusation is already coming. The lawsuit filed in late December claims the false allegations cost JayZ's company Roc Nation contracts worth $20 million annually. A number so precise it suggests this was never about justice, but about sending a message. But here's where it stops making sense. If the case was a lie, why did Jane Doe stick to her story in a sworn declaration before suddenly withdrawing it with prejudice? Meaning she can never refile? Her explanation that she dropped it out of fear of JayZ's fans and his team's intimidation should have ended the conversation. Instead, it's the part people can't stop talking about.
So what happens now is this is simply a civil complaint. And in a civil complaint, it goes through the technical legal process. Now, the distinction, Jessica, between civil and criminal, of course, is that civil is for monetary damages, right? The system can only reward you with money. There's allegations that this 13-year-old is suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, suffered depression, etc. So now you go to fact-finding, right?
What's being whispered now is that the real target wasn't Jane Doe at all. Busby, the lawyer who allegedly pushed her to name JayZ, isn't just some ambulance chaser. He's the same attorney who secured a settlement for Cassie Ventura in her abuse case against Diddy. And he's currently representing at least 3 other women in Diddy's upcoming trial. That's not a coincidence. Industry sources say JayZ's lawsuit isn't about clearing his name. It's about cutting off Busby's credibility before Diddy's trial starts in May, where Busby's clients are expected to testify about parties, punishments, and a culture of silence that allegedly involved some of hip-hop's biggest names. Music, and that's when the story starts to bend. Because if JayZ was never at those events, why is his name in the same lawsuits? Why did his team react so aggressively to a case that was already falling apart? Music, and why, when asked about the recording, did his attorney, Alex Spiro, tell ABC News the tape speaks for itself, while simultaneously suing the woman who made it.
They don't want, if they was in any of those freak-off tapes, if they played a part in any of those Diddy sessions, they don't want it to get out to the general public to make up their brand. That's why a lot of those rappers,
The answers might lie in what happened next. On December 10th, as the lawsuit was still making headlines, 50 Cent posted an AI-generated video on Instagram showing JayZ in a tuxedo at a party, suddenly handcuffed by officers and led away in shame. The caption read, "I want to post this, but I'm afraid I'm going to get shot," followed by a laughing emoji. He deleted it within hours, but not before it spread across Twitter, Reddit, and YouTube, where it racked up millions of views. That's when JayZ's team reportedly made their first move. Phone calls to 50 Cent's camp demanding he stop. But 50 didn't just ignore them, he doubled down. A few days later, he posted a distorted image of JayZ as a camel with the caption, "Please stop sending me stuff like this. I'm not going to post it." Then posted anyway. The message, music, was clear. This wasn't trolling. It was a declaration of war. And this is where people start asking questions, because 50 Cent isn't some random critic. He's a man with a documented history of turning rap beefs into media empires. And right now, he's teasing a documentary that he claims will expose not just JayZ, but the entire system that protects men like him. Sources close to the situation say the project is already in post-production, with a team digging into everything from the dropped lawsuit to JayZ's past associations with Diddy, whose own legal troubles have already dragged in names like Beyonce and LeBron James. But here's the part that doesn't add up. If 50 Cent doesn't have real evidence, why is JayZ's team offering 8-figure settlements to shut down the project before it even drops? That's not how you handle a bluff. That's how you handle a threat. The silence around this part is louder than anything said. While JayZ's attorneys scramble to issue cease and desist letters, 50 Cent has been quietly gathering footage, interviews, music, and what insiders describe as receipts that go beyond the assault allegation. Music people WH.
Interestingly, we haven't seen the indictments yet. There's been some time lag. I suppose it will take some time to go through all the forensic, evidence.
But the real tension isn't about the Super Bowl. It's about what happens when you pull on this thread. Because the moment JayZ's team started threatening lawsuits, 50 Cent didn't back off. He started posting throwback photos of JayZ and Diddy together with captions like "Friends till the end." Jay, you still there? That's not just music a dig. It's a signal. And the question no one's answering is this. If JayZ had nothing to do with Diddy's alleged crimes, why is he acting like a man who's been caught in the crossfire? The recording was supposed to end this. The lawsuit was supposed to bury it. But the way 50 Cent is moving, it started to look like neither of those things were ever the point. And then there's the Epstein files. In early February, a batch of newly unsealed documents from the Jeffrey Epstein investigation included a single mention of JayZ in connection to a 1996 tip about Harvey Weinstein. No charges, no corroboration, just a name and a file. Most outlets dismissed it as irrelevant. 50 Cent did not. Within hours of the files dropping, he announced on Instagram that his documentary would now include a deep dive into JayZ's missing years. Music, the period in the late 90s when he was rising through the industry. But few outside New York knew his name. Music, that's not a coincidence either, because the real damage here isn't what JayZ did. It's what he saw, who he knew, music, and what he spent the last 2 decades making.
There's a lot of people, 50, I feel like he don't have to say nothing, but 50's crazy. He's been like this his whole life. When he's on the block, oh shit, 50's coming.
The problem isn't the allegations. It's the pattern. First, the assault case that wasn't. Then the AI meme that shouldn't have mattered. Now, the Epstein files mention that no one else cares about except the man who's suddenly very interested in JayZ's past. Music, and that's before you get to the whispers about Beyonce. Insiders say she's been checking news updates daily, not because she's worried about her husband, but because she's waiting to see if her name gets pulled into Diddy's trial. Because if it does, the carefully constructed image of the Carters as America's royal family doesn't just take a hit, it collapses. And that's the part that's got JayZ's team moving differently now. Because this isn't about one lawsuit or one meme or one documentary. It's about the fact that for the first time in 20 years, the man who spent his career controlling the narrative isn't in control anymore. And then there's the elevator incident. Music, in 2014, Solange Knowles attacked JayZ in a Met Gala elevator, a moment caught on camera that was never fully explained. The official line was that it was a family matter resolved, music privately. But people who were there that night have always said it wasn't about Rachel Roy's dress. It was about something JayZ said, or did that cross the line even Beyonce couldn't ignore. And now, with the assault allegations resurfacing and 50 Cent digging into JayZ's past, insiders say Solange's long-rumored tell all isn't just about infidelity. It's about what she knows from the years when JayZ and Diddy circles overlapped in ways that were never meant to see the light.
How do you know I'm not a gangster or used to be a gangster? I've been in the music industry for 30 years.
Yeah, I mean, the industry's filled with gangsters.
Here's what's being said in private. Solange's silence wasn't about loyalty to her sister. It was about a deal. Beyonce allegedly convinced her to stay quiet to protect the family's image, but the agreement had an expiration date. If Beyonce ever walked away, Solange would be free to speak. And right now, with JayZ's name tied to lawsuits, AI memes, and a documentary that could drop any day, people close to the situation say Beyonce is recalculating. Because this isn't just about JayZ's reputation, it's about her own. The woman who built an empire on flawless imagery doesn't just fear scandal. She fears being the last one to know. And that's why the whispers about her daily news checks aren't just about Diddy's trial. They're about what happens if Solange decides the time to talk is now. And then there's the money. JayZ's net worth is estimated at $5 billion, built on music, beverage deals, and his partnership with the NFL. But the real value isn't in the numbers. Music, it's in the perception. Roc Nation's entire brand is based on JayZ as the self-made billionaire who transcended hip-hop. But what happens when the man who sold himself as the ultimate survivor starts looking like just another name in a legal filing? Music. Industry sources say the NFL is already quietly exploring contingency plans in case 50 Cent's documentary forces their hand. Because if JayZ is linked to Diddy's alleged culture of punishment and silence, the league doesn't just drop him, it erases him. And that's the part that's got his team moving so aggressively behind the scenes. The cease and desists, the 8-figure settlement offers, the threats to bankrupt 50 Cent production company, none of that is about justice. It's about buying time until the storm passes. But here's the music problem. The storm isn't passing. It's getting worse. Because 50 Cent isn't just targeting JayZ. He's targeting the entire infrastructure that's kept men like him protected.
I think you got to be a little crazy to be successful.
Right.
And that's what 50 is. 50's really crazy. He'll say I'm crazy, but he's crazy.
Right.
And that's where the Epps. The other piece of this is music, the timing. Diddy's trial starts in May. The Super Bowl is in February. 50 Cent's documentary could drop any time between now and then. That's not music a coincidence. That's a countdown. And the clock is ticking louder than anyone wants to admit. Because if the documentary drops before the Super Bowl, the NFL has to make a decision. If it drops before Diddy's trial, the prosecution has new ammunition. And if it drops after, the fallout lands in a media landscape that's already primed to destroy anyone connected to Diddy's world. JayZ's team knows this. That's why the legal threats aren't just about 50 Cent. They're about anyone who might be considering talking. The message is clear. Cross this line, and we will bury you. But here's what they're missing. 50 Cent has spent his entire career getting buried and coming back stronger. And this time, he's not just fighting for clout. He's fighting for legacy. Music. And then there's the quiet part. No one's saying out loud. This isn't just about JayZ and 50 Cent. It's about who gets to decide what stays hidden in hip-hop. For years, the industry has operated on a simple rule. If you're big enough, you're untouchable. Music, but what happens when the untouchables start falling because Diddy's already in jail? Weinstein's in prison, and now JayZ's name is in the same conversations. The difference is JayZ has always been smarter than the rest. He didn't just survive, he music thrived. He turned his past into a brand, his controversies into comebacks, his enemies into footnotes. But this time, the enemy isn't another rapper or a jealous rival. It's a man who spent the last decade building a media empire on exposing the exact kind of secrets JayZ has spent his career hiding. Music. And that's why the real battle isn't in the courtroom. It's in the editing bay, where 50 Cent's team is allegedly putting the finishing touches on something that could rewrite the story of
Paying attention to the music to understand that there's a problem getting ready to take place.
Are you and Game, you think your relationship is repairable?
I don't know what really caused it, big. So, I'm not.
hip-hop's most puh. The final piece of this is the reaction or lack of it from the people who matter. Beyonce hasn't said a word. Solange hasn't either. But the silence isn't neutral. It's strategic because right now the only people talking are the ones who don't have anything to lose. And that should tell you everything you need to know. The lawsuits, the memes, the documentary, none of that is the real story. The real story is the way the most powerful woman in music is watching this unfold and making her own calculations. Because if Beyonce decides that JayZ is more of a liability than an asset, the documentary doesn't even matter. The marriage ends, the brand collapses, and the man who spent his life controlling the narrative becomes just another cautionary tale.
But I've liked JayZ a great deal. I've never liked, there are people who do things because they know they can, and it had that bully mentality. There are people that do things that know they can. And here's the thing, it isn't whether you believe that Diddy did it or not, it's the silence from the people who work with him.
So, here's where we are. A dropped lawsuit that won't stay dropped. A documentary that may or may not exist. A trial that's months away, but already casting a shadow. And a marriage that's been tested before, but never like this. The recording was just the first domino. The AI meme was the second. The Epstein files were the third. And the question now isn't whether more dominoes will fall. It's how far they'll take everything down with them. Because JayZ's team can threaten all they want. They can sue. They can settle. They can try to bury this the way they've buried everything else. But the genie doesn't go back in the bottle. Not this time. Not when the man holding the camera has spent his whole life waiting for this moment. Not when the women who've stayed silent might finally decide to speak. And not when the industry that's protected men like JayZ for decades is suddenly realizing that the rules have changed.
What's the first sucker move that he pulled, in your opinion?
Wow, I got a string of them, but look at me in my face, right? During my trial, look at me in my face telling me, yo, don't worry about it, bro. I got you. And I never see him again.
So, here's where we are. A dropped lawsuit that won't stay dropped. A documentary that may or may not exist. A trial that's months away, but already casting a shadow. And a marriage that's been tested, music, before, but never like this. The recording was just the first domino. The AI meme was the second. The Epstein files were the third. And the question now isn't whether more dominoes will fall. It's how far they'll take everything down with them. Because JayZ's team can threaten all they want. They can sue. They can settle. They can try to bury this the way they've buried everything else. But the genie doesn't go back in the bottle. Not this music time. Not when the man holding the camera has spent his whole life waiting for this moment. Not when the women who've stayed silent might finally decide to speak. And not when the industry that's protected men like JayZ Music for decades is suddenly realizing that the rules have changed. And that leaves us with the questions no one's answering yet. How much did Beyonce really know? What's in Solange's tell all that's got JayZ's team so terrified? Music, is 50 Cent's documentary real? Or is the threat of it enough to force JayZ into a mistake? Music, and when Diddy's trial starts in May, will JayZ's name be read aloud in a courtroom? Or will his team have found a way to keep it buried one last time? One thing's for sure, this isn't ending with a settlement or a deleted post. Music, it's ending with someone's empire in ruins. The only question is whose. So what do you think? Is JayZ about to lose everything? Or is he still one move ahead? And if Beyonce walks away, does the whole thing collapse? Or was she the only thing holding it up in the first place? Drop your theories in the comments. This one's far from over. Stay tuned.